Welcome, everyone, back to SkillSharp The Podcast. We are happy to have you. My name is Brian Wright, and I'm here with my co-host and partner.
I'm Todd Nakasone.
And we have an amazing guest today that is going to share insights that are so deep and so valuable and important that it should blow your mind and kind of make you understand what the future of not only employment, job search, and inside recruiting looks like, but how you can prepare yourself ongoing to just be ready in your career pursuits. So I guess the question for the audience is if you've applied to a bunch of jobs, you've heard nothing, you're not alone. And it's probably not you. Today's job market is being reshaped by AI. Now, old school recruiters know that we used to use a lot of word search, Boolean searches, and we were kind of on the cusp of using AI technology to screen through the many applicants that we get. But nowadays, it is becoming much more of a algorithm driven assessment of resumes being submitted. And our guest today, Paul Duran, is senior technical recruiter at Plaid, a fintech firm in the Bay Area. And he has worked with some of the biggest companies in the world: Facebook, Microsoft, Wells Fargo, blockchain.com. And he's here to pull back the curtain on what's really happening in recruiting right now, and obviously what we'll need to know in the future. So, Paul, welcome to Skillsharp.
Awesome. Happy to be here. Good seeing you guys.
We want to hit on key points, but seriously, man, just the world of recruiting and how you see AI affecting it. You were breaking down so much knowledge to me the last time we talked. I was like, people don't know, like people don't understand what's going on. So you're gonna be I think a showstopper with that info.
Yeah, I'm happy to share just kind of what I've seen and what I've learned and working in different, shops up here in the Bay Area and just if it's beneficial to people, like happy to help and share knowledge or experiences if that's beneficial to people.
Yeah.
So, Paul, thanks for doing this. And I think your insights can be very important for our listeners and our audience because you've recruited across two very different worlds, right? LA media and entertainment, at Warner Brothers and Fox, and then at the in the Bay Area for companies like Facebook, Microsoft, blockchain.com, as Brian mentioned.
Mhm.
Can you walk us through your journey, or like what first drew you to recruiting in the first place? And what was it that made you take the leap and move to the Bay Area?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, for me, I mean, I'm dating myself a little bit, but I have like over 15 years of recruiting experience. So I kind of got into it right out of college when the economy was, doing really well. And I started kind of like most recruiters, typical agency recruiter, started a company called Tech Systems, really just learned the kind of the recruiting craft, learned about baseline technologies at the time. This is kind of more of that networking, IT kind of specialty where we're hiring IT technicians, network administrators, network engineers at companies, kind of around the .com boom, if you will. So I just kind of saw the opportunity. I'm like, hey, this internet thing is taking off. I want to be in tech. I'm not an engineer, but I want to be close to it because I feel like there's a future here. And that's kind of was like my first introduction to recruiting. And I liked it. It's fast paced. There's a little bit of sales, a little bit of psychology. You're helping people, gain opportunities. You're helping them get into better situations, whether it's a higher title, more money, maybe work in better companies than they're currently at. And I kind of, just fell in love with it. Met some great people along the way, like, Todd, you and Brian, and many others that we've worked with. And just, it's been a really like a fun experience. And that's kind of like how I got into recruiting. Um, my wife works in HR, Todd, who you know very well. She got an opportunity to work at Marriott up in San Francisco. And I think for me, I was a little kind of just getting stale on entertainment. I'd worked at Fox, worked at Warner Brothers, was at Comcast, financial crisis hit, myself along with many others, we kind of got laid off. And I was just kind of looking for something different. I said, maybe I want to work for an internet company or a digital advertising agency. I kind of did that for a while. Shifted to Microsoft, and then that timing was perfect because I was fully remote, which is weird. This is before COVID, but I was fully remote, sourcer. And my wife's like, hey, I have an opportunity to go to San Francisco. Like, do you want to go? Should we go? And I just wanted something different. I just wanted change. I just wanted to live somewhere else. And we went to the Bay Area and just fell in love with it. Just the Bay Area has a different vibe, a different energy. It's a lot smaller than LA. San Francisco is only 7 miles by 7 miles, has less than 850,000 people versus LA, which is obviously, LA city proper's got what, 4 million plus and tons of industries. But yeah, that's kind of like my how I got into recruiting and how I kind of came to the Bay Area. And I think for me, it was just I just fell in love with like the people, the vibe, the culture, the scene. And to be honest, it was nice to not be in entertainment anymore. It was nice to not have to hear about the celebs and in LA, as you guys know, that celebrity worship culture is a real thing. And I just got tired of it. To be honest, like to be frank, I'm like, I'm over that. Like I don't care where Paris Hilton is eating or who, Kim Kardashian's dating or whatever, like another celeb show and these people like patting themselves on the back and give themselves awards. I'm just like, nah, there's something else. And I came to the Bay Area, it's more business focused. It's more about like meritocracy. Like literally a guy in his dorm room can invent $1 trillion company. Like literally that can happen up here. Like it has happened. So for me, it's not about looks or connections. It's purely intelligence and skill. And so for me, I just felt like that really resonated with me. And that's how I kind of came up here and fell in love with it and been here ever since.
You know what got you ready for it was I remember that role that you had at the ad tech company, right?
Yes.
And you parlayed that into the next role, which I believe was Microsoft.
Yes. That's right.
And then that got you into the tech sector
Yep.
culture that
Yep.
is San Francisco.
Yes.
Was that decision curated by yourself, or was it just happenstance?
Actually, I have a mentor. His name is Darius, and Darius and I worked together in LA. He's from the Bay Area originally, moved to LA. And he's like a drummer musician on the side. And Darius is awesome. And so Darius and I, he hired me at Conian Media Group, which is like a digital advertising company. And he always told me about the Bay Area and what's it like and how much more money you can make and how recruiters are more valued up in the Bay Area versus LA. And we can talk more about that in a second, like the differences there. But he kind of just like lit a fire under me, like kind of like got my interest going, like piqued my interest. I'm like, and then when the Microsoft opportunity came, he's like, you got to do it. He's like, you should jump on it. It's a great company. It will open doors. And he was right. Facebook came calling because I was at Microsoft, but the entertainment experience got me the Microsoft job because at Microsoft I was supporting the gaming sector, the Xbox division, and they were getting into, I guess what we call now like the streaming media, right? And all of my experiences, all of my, you know, previous companies or roles I've had, they're all kind of connected or they're all kind of they help each other, if you will. But to answer your question, Todd, yeah, like it wasn't just me kind of thinking this up. It was more of people around me say, hey, you should take that chance and open up doors and maybe you can go to the Bay Area one day.
Yeah, I think for you, you're such a great networker and just your intellectual curiosity about different industries, different cities, kind of left you be open to something new.
Yep.
And look where you are now.
Yeah, and look where I am now. I mean, I think I've always admired people who do different things, who live in different cities and go to different countries, or people who studied abroad, or hey, one minute they were in the insurance industry and now they've pivoted. Now they're, let's say, in the medical industry or whatever have you. And I think that the idea of just constant reinvention or constant just that growth mindset where you're learning new things, new skills, new industries, it just makes you adaptable. It makes you more marketable. It makes you more well-rounded. And if I had stayed in entertainment, nothing wrong with that. There's lots of, colleagues that we know that have had great careers and have moved up into leadership roles and expanded their networks and have done great things in entertainment. But I feel like for me, I was a little limited at times. I think, maybe I wasn't the right at the right place at the right time, or maybe I wasn't friends or fate the right friends with the right people or whatever have you. I just felt like, I kind of want to be at a place where it's not so much kind of like subjective, maybe I want to go places where it's like, hey, my performance speaks for itself, like my productivity, my work product, like there's no denying it, right? And I just feel like in the Bay Area and even big tech, that's what it is. It's not about how young you are, what you look like. It's like, hey, how smart you are and how much value you could bring to a company or a team.
And I think you staying in tech, period. I've always felt that that was something that you broke away from the, kind of core group that, we were, at Warner Brothers and others. But, you being in such a fast-paced, like evolving environment right at the time where tech was really kind of making a major leap, right?
Yep.
And these companies were becoming behemoths. It really speaks to, I think, your adaptability. And so from that standpoint, what did what changes did you have to make in your process or style or just your overall kind of mindset in coming from LA to the Bay Area?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think going from a Santa Monica startup to Microsoft was a culture shift for me because Microsoft was more that old school, tried and true, a serious tech company, right? They're global. We all use their products, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, etc. Obviously, this is before Azure cloud computing came along, but Microsoft, I feel like I had to really kind of up my game. I had to be sharper, I had to be more technical, I had to be more thorough and knowledgeable. I had to go deeper into the business groups I was supporting. I had to really understand the products and services that they were building, the maybe the technical challenges that they were facing and how this one role or this staff level engineer was going to change all of that and why this role was so important. So I felt like very much like in the game, if you will. It wasn't kind of like I think in entertainment media, I'm not saying the roles were easier, but they were a little bit more kind of just generic, standard, hey, we're looking for just a software engineer, a vanilla software engineer. At Microsoft, you were looking for a specific type of individual that was solving that specific type of problem. So it definitely forced me to kind of hone my recruiting skills in terms of like how I evaluated talent, how I approached candidates, the way I approached them, the way I pitched to them. Some of these people had lots of other offers or they were very passive. How do I get them excited, interested? So those skills I think were really sharpened at Microsoft. And then when I made the leap to Facebook, it paid dividends because that was a whole other beast. And you're absolutely right, Brian. I think the tech boom was from 2012 to 2022. That was the height. That's when all the tech giants really just skyrocketed. I mean, Netflix and Amazon and Microsoft and Facebook and Google, like that's when they just really skyrocketed, from a stock perspective, valuation perspective, and just global dominance. And so I think when you work at a company like a Facebook, for example, which moves a lot faster than even Microsoft, and you're going after and competing with companies like Google, you better be on your game. The goals, the metrics that we were under, the pressure, it was intense. Like they wanted the best of the best. I mean, you had to be on your game, and everyone around you was super smart. So it just made you feel like, oh wow, like I felt like I was playing at a D1 school, like playing in the SEC. Like, okay, everyone's strong, everyone's fast, everyone's good, everyone's a five star. What are you going to do about it? So I had to read books. I had to take classes. I had to go online and research things. I had to talk to engineers and learn more about technology so I can speak at their level, go to conferences. Like I just, in every facet of my game, I had to improve. I couldn't just rely on, offense and scoring 3 points. I had to play defense, right? I had to play the two-man game. I had to be able to full court press. So it just, I think, really upped my game in a sense, kind of coming to the Bay Area, coming to big tech. And obviously, like at Facebook, that was probably a really like pivotal point in my career because I was there 7.5 years. Like I learned so much, I think, at that time.
Could you shed a little light though on the metrics? Because I think as recruiters go, especially whether it be different regions or different industries, we don't know the pressure that you were under in terms of what you had to deliver. So, I mean, whatever is not proprietary,
Yeah.
but yeah, what were some of the metrics that you had to deal with?
God, I mean, when you are working for a company that's very engineering focused, that's the thing to think about. Most CEOs today, they're either business minded or they're technical or engineering like minded. And if you think about all the top tech companies, all the CEOs come from an engineering background. So that culture filters down. So metrics, conversion ratios, they always want to look at, okay, what part of the funnel is broken? Like they really kind of break it down to a science. So some of the metrics that we had to think about was, okay, how many reach outs do you have to do that's going to lead to a pre-screen to get a response rate? What are those response rate? And from your pre-screens, how many led, what was the percent from your pre-screen that led to a hiring manager screen? And then for the hiring manager screen, what were the conversion ratios or percentages that got to first round, to final round, to offer stage? And then what was your close rate? So like at Meta, like they looked at those things like, hey, Paul, we noticed that your conversion ratio, it was, 60% going from first round to final round. And then for final round to offer it was 25%. Great, you're right on par. And your close rate should be over 85%. So if you're making 10 offers, you're closing eight of them. And if you're not, that's a problem. Or we want to understand, well, what's your recruiting strategy or your closing strategy? Right? What was the situation? What were the other offers? What did we offer him? Were we under? Were we over? And we would track that data. We had trackers where we would like put our offers like, okay, I made these offers. Here's what I offered. They declined. They accepted. What did they accept at? What were the other offers? What were the companies? What were the industries? Like they want to know everything. So that level of rigor and intensity, you carry that with you, whether you go to a startup, whether you go to blockchain. So before Plaid, you didn't mention this, but before Plaid, I was at OpenAI, and we'll talk about the AI stuff that I learned there. But like that, people who worked at Facebook, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, we all operate in that same type of style. So when we go to smaller companies, they expect that level of productivity. They say, hey, oh, you worked at Google, you worked at Meta, you can handle pressure, you can close under pressure, you can handle intensity, you can work the long hours, you can be competitive and try to outdo your peers, if you will, in a nice way, right? Not in a bad way. So it just, it was a lot more intense than what I had experienced in LA. And I think that speaks to just the talent density that we have up here. We have world-class engineers. So guess what? They want world-class recruiters, right? They want to know like, hey, is my recruiting team like, can they keep up with us? And so we had to really elevate ourselves. And that's where the metrics, conversion ratios came in, the trackers, diversity efforts, close rates, that those are all the things that we were like measured on top of the goals that we had.
Paul, you mentioned OpenAI. You've been on the front lines of AI and how it's transformed recruiting. What does that actually look like at a company like Plaid, who's, fintech and really leaning into AI?
Mhm.
What does that mean as far as how much AI is taken over?
I would say, we're still at the early stages. I know that ChatGPT is everywhere. We have a lot of different like large language models like Claude, we have Gemini, obviously, we have, ChatGPT, et cetera. But, you know, a lot of these smaller AI startups are basically just ChatGPT wrapped. So I would kind of call them like the one trick pony. So maybe they have only one product offering, but companies like Anthropic or OpenAI, and even to an extent Microsoft, they have a lot of different kind of features and functionalities that are more AI specific that companies kind of buy at an enterprise level. So right now, companies are buying ChatGPT Enterprise. And what does that mean? Stronger models, smarter, more capability, more functionality, right? So companies are kind of going slow into AI. I mean, in terms of like adoption and rolling out and kind of buying and implementing those type of tools and resources into their workflows. On the engineering front, engineers are using AI every day. They're using Cursor, which is basically like a coding assistant to help them write cleaner code. They might use ChatGPT for the data science team to do just kind of evaluations or whatever they're working on. Machine learning engineers will use AI in their daily workflows, or companies are starting to use AI into the products that they're building. So we're kind of having this like, yes, we're all in, but let's go slow approach because we don't know how it's going to change or shift the product, the business, the landscape. Does it give us an advantage? And then there's these AI native companies, which are just, hey, we're an AI shop and here's all the things that we can do, like agentic AI. There's companies that actually will build AI agents for companies to implement. Or we're seeing things like Einstein, which is a product at Salesforce, which is basically you're talking to an AI. There's no more customer service rep. There's no more salesperson. It's an AI you're talking to, right? So there's a lot of different ways that AI is kind of being implemented into different companies and industries. And you're going to see either more or less of it, or some people are going a lot more faster or slower. But I think, in the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to be everywhere. And what do I mean by that? People are like, well, what does that mean? Or I'm not trying to scare anyone, but think of it this way. Imagine you're applying for a home loan. There's going to be an AI that's going to determine if you get it or not. Or when you're trying to dispute a medical bill, It's going to be an AI that's going to be evaluating all your documentation that's going to decide, do you get it or not? Do you get the claim or the reimbursement? And some people are, that's a little jarring, it's a little scary. And I think that's kind of where we're probably headed because companies are in this race to be as most efficient as possible with little headcount overhead as possible to maximize profits and revenue and shareholder value as possible. And that's kind of where you're seeing like less jobs being created or you're seeing more layoffs happen. And that's where it gets a little kind of, people get nervous. So AI's, I think, not taking over, but it's being rolled out and implemented in different ways to different degrees depending on the company or the industry.
So, as a recruiter, when you're interviewing somebody, how do you evaluate whether or not they're leaning into AI in their to make them more efficient, to be more productive, et
We,
cetera?
yeah, it's a great question. I think we would look at how they use AI in their daily work stream. How are they using it? What type of projects have they used AI with? Or can you give us an example of something you've built with AI? Have you built GPTs, right? Or maybe they've built some AI agents and it's helped them with their workflow, right? Or their daily job. And I think that's something that gives us an indication of like, okay, do they have a growth mindset? Are they adopting new technology? Are they kind of leaning into it, or are they shying away from it? So that's a question that we might ask someone is like, hey, how do you use AI in your day to day? Like, can you give me an example of that? And they might say, "Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm using it in this way, or I'm using it to do this." And it's not like it's doing their job entirely, but it's used as an enhancer. That's what people need to realize is that AI is not going to take over your job. It's more to complement what you already do well. So I use AI every day. I use it for my reach out notes. I'll use it to evaluate job offers. I'll do it for research on companies. I'll do it for market mapping. I'll think about, hey, I've heard that this company does this. Is that true? Or, hey, what's a typical offer for director of engineering in New York? Can you give me some comparisons by this industry? And ChatGPT will pull it up, or I'll use Perplexity, which is more that AI search engine. I'll use that for certain things versus ChatGPT, right? So that's how I use it. It's more of like, hey, I'm thinking about this. Is my assumption correct? Am I off base? Or hey, I have a situation, which is the correct path? So I'm thinking about beyond job descriptions and emails. I'm thinking about more of like decision making. And now the AI models are so advanced that reasoning capability, as you know, right? ChatGPT 5 has more of that reasoning capability. So it just kind of makes your decision making more sharper, more knowledgeable, and maybe so you have less blind spots.
The one thing that you bring up, and I think it's just when you think about the archetypes of professionals nowadays, people are hearing about AI, and literally it is just this boogeyman or whatnot,
Yeah.
right? But what you're really talking about on the sophistication level is how people understand the different AI tools out there and how they may incorporate them into their workflows. It really doesn't have to do with the AI itself, but it's like, what's the capability of the AI and how does it help my job? And it's just like from a candidate standpoint, I think people have to start to evolve
Right.
or they're going to be left behind. So it's a real, I hate to say it, it is a scary proposition that the way you just described how you may use 4 or 5 different tools for your role,
Mhm.
and it's not just about, oh, people are like worried about AI, it's like you're literally taking it to a much higher level. And obviously, do you think that that's Bay Area because you guys are so much more advanced, or is that really from maybe a job type,
That's
more
a
of technical?
Yeah, that's a really good question because we're around it so much in the news and the newspaper and people talk about it, right? And LinkedIn, I read the feeds and people are talking about all these things. So I don't, I guess I really haven't talked to a lot of people that are not using it. I mean, if I was a recruiter, let's just pretend, if I was a recruiter hiring nurses, well, then I really wouldn't expect them to know AI, right? Or well, what does that matter if they know it or not, right? But I think if I'm hiring engineers, that's a fair question. I would expect that they're on top of their game with respect to new technologies that they should be learning or thinking about. And, you know, most companies, even in the Bay Area, we don't have a hard requirement like you have to know AI, you have to use it to this degree. perfect example, Todd, for you. We talked about OpenAI earlier. At OpenAI, when I was recruiting on some roles, the hiring manager said they don't have to know AI to work here, which that blew my mind. I was like, what? Like, I'm sorry. Hold on, come again? Like I was very confused. And because when I was preparing for that contract role, I researched, I watched videos and I was digging into the technology and kind of geeking out about it, right? So I was trying to like up my AI knowledge, but hearing a senior level manager saying, who was the head of security, by the way. Hey, if they don't know AI, it's okay. We will teach them. Better yet, if they don't know AI, that's even better because we'll teach them our way or we'll teach them our tools and technology. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So it's not like a hard requirement, like you have to have it. But I will say this, it does make you stand out. It definitely makes you more marketable, more valuable if you do know it.
Yeah, I went to SHRM last year, and one of the speakers was a corporate VP of HR from Microsoft, right? And he says, if you're not leaning into AI, it's not like AI is going to take over your job, but somebody who is leaning into AI will eventually take your job
Yeah,
because they're going to be that much more efficient,
right.
right? And how they use it on an everyday basis. And there's certain cases where it provides you certain knowledge maybe you're not typically savvy in, but like for nurses, maybe they don't know that there's a two drugs that would lead to a heart attack, right?
True.
And maybe the pharmacists aren't talking to each other. So, I mean, that's one application for a nurse to utilize AI and maybe even save somebody's life.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there are use cases for it in general. But a lot of people I think are still a little resistant to it because they think like, okay, am I giving my information? Am I telling my deep dark secrets? Is the AI taking my data? That's another thing that I think is a big topic up here in the Bay Area, or I think in general, data privacy, just sharing your like who you are, like, hey, how I think or what I'm working on. Like, does OpenAI own it now, or are they going to hear my trade secrets of Plaid, right? There actually are walled gardens. So if you, whatever you talk to or whatever you work on in an enterprise GPT, the company owns it. So Plaid owns it. OpenAI doesn't see that data. Any project, any documents, they don't see it. It belongs to us. So that's something that people don't know about that I actually learned about. It's like, hey, we have enterprise ChatGPT. Don't worry, you can share and do whatever you want. They don't see it. Like it's not going to get out, basically. So I'm like, okay, great. So AI, you have, but not everyone knows that, but I do think it's a technology that people should not be dependent on, not be afraid of, should use it, should find ways to make it work for them in their own way. I think that's the thing that people are not hearing enough about is that it's being forced down people like, hey, you need to use it. I know that Microsoft is saying, hey, we're going to measure you on how much AI are you doing in your day to day or how much has helped you or what percentage you use AI on that project, which to me is I think is extreme. I think some of these tech companies might be getting a little, ahead of their skis a little bit. But I think that for the average person, the average, student or young professional out there, I think they should just kind of use it to the degree that you feel that is enough for you. There's so many AI tools, there's so many resources, there's so many sites, and it's constantly evolving, it's constantly growing, and there's just more and more, right? It's impossible to learn every AI skill out there. I think you should just think about what AI tools and resources would help me in my job and just focus on that.
So when people are worried about AI and the AI bubble,
Yeah.
or I mean, number one, is that valid?
The AI
Because
bubble.
yeah, because in our last conversation, you had described how people really don't understand how much we are already in the AI infrastructure.
Yep.
And there's a lot of companies that are doing things that are so advanced, it's going to leapfrog us technology wise, over the next couple of years. So I
Yeah.
think people are worried about a 1 year to 3 year kind of window of like, oh, are we in a bubble? I'm like, it's actually happening now. But what are your thoughts on where we are as a society and where industry is right now?
I mean, what's interesting about like the US versus China as an example,
Hmm.
China is much further along in terms of adoption, in terms of really pushing it onto the students. children, I mean, as early as I think 5 years old, 6 years old, or it's baked into their curriculum. So they're definitely going to have a lot more stronger, repertoire, just a stronger kind of acumen, right, with using AI tools and resources. That could be good and bad. There have actually been some articles written. I don't know how valid they are, but if you are so dependent on, let's say, ChatGPT, not that it makes you dumber, right? But in terms of just your creativity or your decision making or analytical ability, it seems to diminish a little bit over time. So I think with AI tools, you should less is more. You don't want to be so dependent on it to do everything, but you still want to check the work. It's not perfect every time. There's hallucinations. Sometimes it'll have like weird responses or, oh my God, that's not right. Where did that come from? It's not perfect. I think, we're getting closer to maybe AIs that will be at the human and intelligence level, or maybe like in the future, maybe in 10 years, super intelligence. And that's where it gets really scary. But I think right now, the next 1 to 3 years, we're probably going to see a lot more agents kind of do a lot of this lower level work, like the chat bots or like the salespeople, or maybe you're doing your taxes through an AI agent now, right? Maybe you're buying a house or getting approved for a loan with an AI agent. So you're going to start to see a little bit more of like those type of things over the next 1 to 3 years before, you know, I guess AGI, right? Once that takes over, once that gets released, that's going to be a lot more, profound, I think. But companies, governments, people, countries, they're kind of still like, we don't want to give the reins to AI because it's still not ready for that yet. There's still a lot of things that the AI can't do, like judgment, like it doesn't have feelings or emotion. It doesn't know that, hey, if I launch this missile, it'll kill a million people. That's bad. Like it doesn't have that type of capability yet, like that feeling, right, of right and wrong. That's where Anthropic comes in, where they want to build these guardrails and these safety net kind of, or they want to build AI that's more, that's more human aligned or more like with safety systems built into it. So a lot of companies are doing a lot of different things, but I don't think we're in an AI bubble yet. I think maybe we're in an AI stock bubble. I think AI is going to slowly evolve and grow and get better with time. It's not slowing down. Kind of like the internet. When we think about how we used Yahoo, that was our search engine, to Google, to now we have Perplexity. Like those are huge leaps, right? We didn't have cloud computing before. Now we have it. Now we have streaming video. Now Netflix dominates, right? The media entertainment world. Now everyone's copying them. And so you're going to see an evolution of AI get slowly rolled out. How fast it gets adopted, it really depends on, you know, what what benefit it will bring people. Some people are resistant, some people use it more than others, depends on the industry, the company, if they force it down people's throats. So I think you're just going to see different degrees of AI adoption. So I don't think we're in a bubble yet, but it's definitely everywhere. It definitely feels like it's coming. It's the boogeyman. It's going to take over our jobs, the world. But I think it's just a lot of hype and, just sensationalism and selling, I guess getting views and clicks, if you will.
I watch too much Terminator.
Yeah, they're watching too much Terminator. I mean, could that happen? It could. I mean, if you connected the AI to, let's say, all of our nuclear subs, and I mean, could it go rogue? Could someone, a hacker, get into the system? We don't know. I mean, who knows? We don't know. That's the scary part, is that AI and deep learning, it really is a black box. Like we don't know how it does these things. Like, for example, I think when I was talking to Brian last time, Todd, the example I gave was some AI, kind of like these AI researchers, they created a model, language, and the AI started talking back to the scientists in their own voice, and they shut it down. That freaked them out. Why did it do that? How did it know to do that? Right? So it's these little, or they had an AI where they threatened to shut it down, and they created a fake scenario where the president was having an affair with some secretary, and then the AI threatened, like, hey, I'm gonna tell your wife, if you shut me down, I'm gonna expose your affair because I read the emails off the server. It's like, whoa, like, yeah. So, you know, it's those little things that I think companies and people should be reminded that you can't just give over the car keys to the AI. It's not perfect. It's not ready yet. I think AI should just be rolled out in increments slowly. It should not just be this thing that's just force fed to society, whether it's in China or the US. It's too much.
It really blows my mind though, in a sense that, you're living, and I'm putting you in the situation, but where you're living this much more advanced exposure and your environment is just, I would say, on a scale from 1 to 10, you guys are at an 8, where most, let's say, even LA, it being as contemporary as it is, we're probably at a 5.
Mm,
And that means that middle US and other industries are at like a 2.
right.
And just contemplating those ratings as not being far-fetched, that's scary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a thought, but
It, I mean, I think it's also exposure, like if let's say agriculture industry was the dominant industry, not tech, well, then people in Iowa would know way more about farming than me, you know? I think it's proximity. I think there's a lot of people in LA that are using AI in very interesting ways. I think a lot of these content creators, I think these smaller studios are using maybe Sora to build, these short form
sure.
videos. So I think people are using AI and say, hey, instead of fighting it, let's use it, let's build, let's create with it. And that's kind of what OpenAI wants, like with Sora. But if I'm a studio, I would be a little nervous. Like, hey, maybe we don't need so many actresses, or why am I paying Scarlett Johansson 20 million when I can just pay this AI a smaller fee to their agent, right? This is the AI actress that people were excited about. And I think that they should be, I mean, a little nervous because they are overpaid. And, the content today is maybe not what it once was in the past. And it's just different, or we're just seeing remake after sequel. People are kind of over it, right? That's why I think content creators like yourselves are more interesting. It's more authentic, it's more real. It's kind of speaks to like topics that are more interesting versus like curated, kind of, force fed to the masses. Hey, this is what we want you to think or look at, right?
One of the partners that we work with, Todd and I, in the LA area, he's an AI expert. He actually released an R&B artist,
Wow, that's
and
awesome.
initially had the artist, be a part of a podcast, obviously kind of talking about their sound and what they're intending to do. And then
Wow.
the following week, he released the first album. Well, not no, not album, first song with the video,
Wow.
right? And so, to your point, like, yeah, I think now we know what the strike was all about, in terms of a lot of the actors and voiceover people, things like that. They knew what was coming, and the implications of that. So, yeah, it's a tough situation.
The thing about LA, which I do love, is that it's a creative environment. Whether you're a cook, a chef, a songwriter, an actress, an actor, a director, like that's LA. If you're a creative type, that's what LA is about, and my brother, a lot of my family and friends, like you all, like you guys love that, and I did too at one point. I think I was very much into that world, but I think just kind of my experiences and just kind of what like how I saw the industry kind of changing, and I'm just like, do I want to stay with this, and do I feel like I have a future here? Because there was just so much change, I think, around that time when we were all working together, right? This was back in, gosh, maybe what, 2007,
Mm.
2006, around that time. And, like entertainment, I felt like really dominated. They really did. But then once this little company called Facebook and social media, they just took over, and then Instagram came along, and then there's Snapchat, and then TikTok, and then YouTube really blew up. And again, that's part of that whole tech boom that we talked about. And then I feel like media kind of took a backseat a little bit and just said, okay, now what do we do? Then Netflix came out. Hey, we're going to make streaming movies on the internet. You don't have to buy DVDs anymore. And I think that's when, these more static, more kind of traditional, right, companies felt like, hey, they were getting left behind. They just couldn't keep up. The level of innovation that happens up here, it definitely is a lot more accelerated. I think that's partially because the VCs, I think the economy was in a different place. There was no AI, right? We didn't have well, we're just getting over the financial crisis. This was before COVID. So that sweet spot, that 2012 to 2022 was really that tech boom.
And now there's no coming back to LA, Paul. San
Now,
Francisco's it, huh?
this Bay Area, I just, it's a lot different. Like,
Yeah.
I think the quality of life for me and my family, it works. I miss LA, miss the Laker games, miss Dodger Stadium, all my friends and family, but I just, I feel like that was like my old chapter. It's like kind of like a college kid. You look going back to high school. It's like that's not me anymore. Like I'm like looking forward and maybe I moved somewhere else. Maybe I moved to East Coast. Maybe I moved to Texas or a different state in the future. Who knows? But I think for right now, like I'm enjoying my time in the Bay Area. There's a lot to do up here. There's a lot of cool people up here, and yeah, we're happy up here.
Oh, that's great, man. That's great to
That
hear.
is.
Yeah.
So what do you think is going to happen to the role of recruiters?
Yes, great question. I think it will shift. It will change. Like there are tools and resources that can book interviews. So I think maybe recruiting coordinators, their days could be numbered. Sourcers, a lot of what they do, it's word, it's keyword search, it's using tools, right? There are tools like Juicebox, which can stack rank, candidates. So you're looking at less people. Maybe I don't have to use LinkedIn Recruiter anymore. I could just use Juicebox as an example. It does. I can do reach outs. I can look at metrics. I can send out my outreaches and my sequences, right? The AI can do a summary of the candidates, or it gives me access to their email, their LinkedIn, their GitHub, their Twitter handle, all in one like dashboard, right? So I think recruiting will shift into a more high touch. Recruiting will shift into a more, maybe we'll see less recruiting jobs, maybe we'll see less like lower level recruiters and more specialized recruiters. I think that's probably what we're going to see is more specialization.
Your knowledge of the tools is amazing, though, and I laugh because I'm the companies that are offering these services
Yeah.
at this time. I mean, the costs are exorbitant. I mean, it's just like they feel like there's, I think, a monopoly on their services.
Mhm.
But to imagine a juice box, which I've never heard of, right? Now, does that make Indeed obsolete?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I
You know
mean,
what I'm saying? As the more people find out about it, it's like,
yeah,
what am I on Indeed for?
exactly. I mean, like, okay, let's I'll just give you the quick little cheat sheet here. The top three ATS systems, applicant tracking systems, are ranked number one is Ashby, ranked number two is Lever, and then it's Greenhouse, right? Like those are the top like ATS systems that companies are using the most. Big tech, they have their own. Google has G Hire, Facebook has FBR. They created their own ATS, okay? But most startups use Ashby, and Ashby is like this one-stop shop. You post jobs, you create offers, it looks at feedback, you can do your reach outs, you can do your sequences, it has metrics dashboard, like it's amazing, right? Juicebox is saying, hey, you don't need Monster Board's gone. Indeed's slowly dying. Juicebox like, hey, look, you don't need Gem. Gem was this tool to reach out to candidates. You can find their email actually. So you can find their link. You can reach out to them either LinkedIn or their email or both. And it sends out emails on your behalf while you're asleep in a 3 or 4 sequence step. If they don't respond 2 days later, the system will automatically send it to them. So Juicebox, right, is a lot cheaper than LinkedIn. It's only $1,400 a year. LinkedIn recruiters, what, 15, 20 grand per seat? And it hasn't changed. The search capability, the functionality hasn't really improved. So why would I use it? And companies are like, hey, let's be more fiscally disciplined. Maybe we don't, not everyone needs a recruiter seat. Maybe we only need 5 seats and 10 juice box seats, and that's it. Or maybe we don't need Gem. Let's just use Ashby and we're done. So I think, this economy that we're in, companies are getting a lot more consolidated, more fiscally disciplined, looking at efficiency, looking at productivity, and I think that's where people, candidates, recruiters as well, you need to be on your game with that stuff. Like you can't be taking 4 to 6 months to hire a job. Your close rate can't be 60%, right? Your response rate can't be, 65% or 70%. It needs to be higher. So the quality of your output needs to be a lot more improved and more thoughtful and more curated. And that's where the AI tools come in, right? And I think it sounds like a lot of work, and it's like, wow, this is a lot of hitting me all at once. You just bake it into your workflow. You just go slowly, find the tools that get you from point A to point B the quickest, or which yield the best results. And it's an iteration process. It's like trial and error. It took me a while to realize, like, hey, if I send out in-mails this way or at these days at these times, great. Or hey, if I close this way, I'm going to get the answer that I want. Or if I know this type of, based on AI tools, okay, this is what I'm dealing with or competing with. Here's how I know how to pitch against that person who has another offer, right? I'm able to close better. So again, it's just all about you as a person, what feels right for you, what tools and resources are going to make you as efficient as possible, as productive as possible, where you're adding the most value to your team or your company. Like that's the name of the game. At the end of the day, whether AI takes over or not, it's about you being like the best like team member you can be at that time.
This episode is brought to you by Ashby.com. Ashby.com, be fiscally responsible.
Also brought to you by Juice Box.
This is not an ad. I don't get any cut or any of this, but yeah.
Hey, Brian, you want to take us home?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here chuckling because of number one, how amazingly smooth your delivery is of all of this just groundbreaking information. Seriously, it your delivery and your knowledge of it actually makes me feel like I understand it more. So kudos to you on that. But two, I think also your consideration and just the way you have used it in your own world makes it a lot less threatening to me as well. And maybe that feeds into me feeling comfortable hearing it, but also understanding what you're dealing with in the Bay Area and in your tech world and where everyone needs to be thinking that they need to be prepared for in the future. I mean, this could be daunting to people hearing it, but again, the way that you use the tools and understand the information and the greater implications of it really provide context, in how we can get better ourselves, like you said, day to day, tool by tool, improve our workflow. So, I mean, just number one, you need a podcast.
No, I don't. I mean, honestly, I'm really shy, like with this.
Oh, come on.
To be honest, yeah, I don't like when I prep my candidates, I don't do it over Google Meet. I do it over the phone. I'm old school. I'm over the phone kind of a person, even when I close my offers. But these are fun conversations, great topics. Like I love seeing you guys, and I missed working with you, and I'm glad you guys are doing this. I think it's amazing that you're getting people to kind of share their knowledge, their insights to help people, essentially. Like, hey, let's educate them and tell, like, kind of pull the curtain back, if you will, and like, hey, what's happening? Yeah, I mean, maybe in another life I'll do a podcast, but I don't have time for that. I got two kids and I'm always busy.
No, yeah, no, don't worry. But seriously, you've been great. I think this is something that we need to do again, though. So you may
Okay.
not have your own podcast, but having you on as a recurring guest where people are able to learn from you would be really valuable. So we appreciate you, Paul. Thank you for being on.
It's fun.
You've
Happy
been
to
great.
help. Yeah, no, thanks, guys. Good seeing you guys.